other people involved in the event have already made event location, or type of event, event location. Are you going to have site tokens? Because that will be a cost that you incur. If it's a feast, are you catering? Are members of the is it a potluck? So are members of the populace cooking? Are you having a feast crew that is cooking for everybody, and so then you're buying groceries for them to cook? But budget, you need to have a budget.
Also, you know, the site itself, is this going to be at a public park where there's no cost? Is it going to be at a private campsite where you're having to actually rent the site, or a rented feast hall or something like that, where there's a cost associated with the site itself? Plus, like I said before, don't forget to factor in porta potties. If you need to get some porta potties, that's going to have a little bit of a cost associated with it as well. And so you're going to add all these things up and go over that with the Seneschal and the Exchequer, because they're going to play a role in determining how much of a budget you have to work with. And so, you know, because the Seneschal and the Exchequer are you know, two key parts of that financial committee that makes those financial decisions of, yes, we can spend this much money on this, or no, we just don't even have that much in the coffers to be able to afford this wonderful feast hall that you're looking at that's going to cost us, you know, $400. We just don't have it, so we'll have to find another place.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope that whatever your event is, that you're going to, at bare minimum, break even. I mean, unless it's something super extravagant, or, you know, king and queen are coming to visit, so you know that you're paying for things out of the local funds for, you know, extra special stuff. But the goal is at bare minimum to break even, and if you can make a little bit extra on an event for us, Stronghold, I was trying to not say that, but for us it's Stronghold funds, that's great, but you definitely don't want to be too crazy in terms of going in debt. So again, the decisions that you've already made, where the event is going to be held and what type of event are going to, really that's going to determine what the budget could be or has to be. Wilhelm talked about all of the things surrounding submitting publication info in terms of getting it on the Kingdom calendar and then into the page. Don't forget about using Yahoo or Facebook, other social networking sites to get the information out. You want to do the basic who, what, where, when, why. So date and time of the event, if there are any rules for that particular event location.
Such as surrounding pets, alcohol, things like that. You know, is this a pet-friendly site or not? Is it a wet or dry site? Or what we call discreetly wet, which basically means, you know, nobody's going to say anything about having alcohol there, but don't be walking around with a bottle or, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, most SCA members have a little better sense than that anyway, but if it's one of those things, you know, we really don't want to see it, then let that be known in the event copy that goes into the publication by at least saying discreetly wet or dry site.
Info about site amenities. So yes, there are bathrooms, but they're porta potties. It's a camping location, but you need to bring your own tent, or tents are available to rent at the site, that sort of thing. Things that you would want to know if you were going to go to an event and didn't know what was going on. That's the kind of information you want to put out for other people.
Are campfires allowed?
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you fly the banners at comprehensive?
Yes. Can you put poles into the ground to fly banners? That seems like wouldn't be a problem, but in some places, yes it is. And those are things that when you're scouting event sites, as Autocrat, you'll need to think about that stuff. And sometimes we just take things for granted that end up being problems later on.
Because a lot of us deal with military bases here, we have to look at the extra things that may be involved where you wouldn't have to deal with it so much out in town, like fire permits. If you're doing an event on base at a fire pit, just because the pit's there doesn't mean it can always be used. Also, as you said, we found out recently permits to just to hammer a stake into the ground requires a permit because there is a lot of underground piping and wires that run through bases and stuff. So these are things that you need to look at and what type of permits are required.
And also for those on-base events, whether those be out here in the far west or someplace in Drachenwald or even back home stateside at, I've been to some on-base events even right in Palantir. Anytime that you're having an on-base event, you're going to want to make sure you include that information in that event copy that yes, base access is required, so be sure to bring ID that will get you in the gate. That also can be a snagging point for some folks out here in the far west, such as, for instance, if folks of a certain nationality are not going to be allowed onto base due to current international relations, that kind of thing, then you know some of your sister groups within the barony may need to know that their local nationals just simply aren't going to be able to make it into an on-base event. You know, and that's just an unfortunate reality that comes up sometimes because, you know, politics being what they are and being really sometimes very uncertain in some parts of the world where the SCA is.
So if it's a local event that you're planning, that wouldn't necessarily be a factor, but if you're planning a baronial event, then yes, that's definitely, you know, you have to think about not just your local group or the country where your local group happens to be, but you have to think barony-wide for that sort of thing. So other information that you would want to push out on an event, where is it? Now here in Japan, that's a bit of a challenge because maps, not so awesome. Directions, we usually can't read them because we can't read the signs. But if you can make some sort of map or give very detailed written directions, that is the best. And we have to remember that newcomers are newcomers and they're driving on the other side of the road in a foreign country, and so you can't just assume that somebody knows. You know, the park where we always go on the third Saturday or whatever, you want to make sure that you're giving good directions for people.
Yes, and Baby's always said that you should make sure you have plenty of play toys for little babies at all events. That's part of autocratting responsibility.
Yes. And she points, it's another good point about bathrooms, running water, covered shelter, and other amenities, because while adults might be able to tough out hot weather or tolerate that a little bit better, or rainy, disgusting weather a little bit better, our younger members not so much. So you do have to take into consideration things like the age range of the members that are coming to your event. And is there going to be stuff for them to do? So again, when you're building that schedule, you need to think about that. It's awesome when we have our younger SCA members show up, but you know, you remember what it's like when you're a kid and you get dragged to an adult event and there's nothing to do. It's a drag. So you want to try to, as autocrat, even if you're not doing it yourself, assign that out. Assign out somebody else to be responsible for productive entertainment for the younger crowd. So working on heraldry of some sort for them, you know, age-appropriate level, age-appropriate A&S classes.
And not to mention that if you do have a child area where there are going to be child events and so forth, that the people that you put in charge of that event have gone through the proper screening processes, because I mean, there's things out there now because of issues like that we want to prevent.
And you want to make sure that, so we're having our tournament is our event that we're planning for this class. So you want to make sure that the younger members understand what the ERIC is, what that means, why they're not supposed to cross it, that hold means stop. So if they hear hold, you know, that doesn't mean keep running, that means stop what you're doing so that you don't get hit with whatever, part of a flying sword that's, you know, gotten broken off.